Are you planning on racing 70.3 Muskoka this year in Canada? Apologies for pronunciation. Well, if so, this is the video for you because in it I'm going to talk to an experienced local Canadian triathlete who's going to give you the lowdown on all the swim, the bike, the run, transition, and all that good stuff, and some equipment recommendations, etc. But who are we, and how are we going to do that? My name is Coach Steve or Steven Moody from Dublin, Ireland. Originally a triathlon coach for over 20 years, but more recently a YouTuber. I won't say influencer because that makes me sound daft, but I do videos on 70.3, half distance and full distance around the world. So I review what the course is like, and so people can have a feel for what they're signing up for or what they're going into if they're already signed up. I did this, started off doing this by the 10, 15 Ironman races I've done already, but soon I ran out of those. So then I had to touch base with my really cool community of people who I've worked with, I've coached, I've done races with, race organizers, etc. So today we are delighted to have Bryce Hudson back from on the channel. We did which 70.3 Mont
That was
Tremblant.
Tremblant.
Cool. But now on to the local race. So Bryce, a little bit about yourself and how you know the race, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, so I'm just a local triathlete in Southern Ontario, Canada. Been racing triathlon for 6 years. Previously played Canadian football through university and high school. So wanted to keep on with the sports as I got older and jumped into this one. Um, Raced Muskoka back in 2021, just straight coming out of COVID time. So it's changed a little bit of that. I think the bike course and the swim are exactly the same. The run course is a bit different, but pretty familiar with the grounds up there. It's about a 3.5 hour drive from me, so not too far.
That's around the corner for you Canadians, like it's just like 3.5 hour drive. Like
Yeah. Well, Tremblant's
we'd fall
9.
off Ireland if I went that far.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so we'll dive in. And again, no better place to start than the what you call it, our swim course. Do you want to talk us through how this works out for the day? What to expect on the day? Or is it going to be wetsuit legal? Are there funny things in the water? Is it going to be warm?
It's going to be warm. I was looking at the temps in general for those days. It's somewhere between 16.5 degrees, 25 degrees Celsius. And that's been the past 4 years. There's been no rain in the past 3 years, but the year that I did it was a torrential downpour with a thunderstorm back in 21. It was my first triathlon, and I didn't know, like, I was on the bike and I saw the lightning come. Like, am I supposed to stop? Like, how does this work? As I could barely see the road and like worried about hydroplaning. But no, the weather's been pretty good. That year it was in August too, where this is traditionally held in the first or second weekend of July. Um, so the humidity is pretty mild. The temperatures are pretty good. It does get pretty warm with the humidity, like by the time you get on the run course, but there is a decent amount of shade on the run course at least, so that's good. And the winds aren't too crazy usually. So the water is usually a pretty good temperature. I don't think I've seen it not be wetsuit legal previously. I was looking through some people's race reports for the past few years, even pre-COVID, and it always seems to be race legal. Even when I did it end of August, it was race legal, so that's positive. Yeah. And then when you're getting there on the day, there's lots of like street parking around, so that's not too much of an issue for anybody. You can't park directly at that Canada Summit Center, which is where the transition zone is, but good to know there. For the swim, though, you'll notice that I mentioned the Canada Summit Center is where the transition is, and the swim starts a little bit of ways away from there. So my recommendation is, I think it's about a 500-meter walk, and it's a gravel path. Great path to do a little warm-up jog on if you need in the morning. But you probably want to bring some like throwaway Old Navy sandals, flip-flops, walking over there, that you're not too worried about, just because you don't want to break up your feet, and you might not want to get into your wetsuit until you get over to the swim start. Don't necessarily just get into it at transition, because it's a long walk. um, I believe this one, it's a weird swim start. So usually it's in the water. It's not one of these traditional rolling ones like we talked about with Tremblant. This one's like this like weird like small like one person clearing that you kind of walk through, that has a couple rocks that brings you into it, and then they bring you off age group wise. It seems like that's stayed similar since when I was there. So that's good. So you just kind of go off in your waves. Where when you're doing your warm up as well, there's a bunch of stops to get into that little stream by Camp Kitchen Road, which is the one you'll be walking up. So if you want to do some like swim starts there, that's kind of where I recommend. It's like almost like 50 meters to go across the little canal there. So just perfect to do a couple like blasts and kind of get the arm speed up and sort of cool it. So there's that. And then once you get into the water, so that first length, that's pretty much going into the sun. So you'll see a lot of the swim is sort of away from the sun, so you don't necessarily need the tinted goggles as much in this race, just because it's only a short amount of time. Where it's maybe what like 300 meters to that first buoy, and then you kind of turn and then keep going. Um, and then once you get into the little canal area, it's really nice because it's not too wide. It's not like you don't feel necessarily claustrophobic in there because it's spread out a little bit by the time you get to there. I think the worst thing about it is, I mean, at least in August, there's a little bit of a gasoline taste to the water, um, but it's all docks on the canal bank there. So, anyways, the risks of racing in water like that. But no, it's a nice one. And then the swim exit there, they have a little bit of a staircase, and it's a bit of a longer run to transition, but it's all carpeted. So really well marked. The buoys are great. And like I said, you're kind of going away from the sun. So it works out pretty well. And the sun like is up by like 6. So it's pretty bright out by that point.
And does it get choppy at all? Is there any wind on the water, or is it well sheltered?
I was looking at the wind speed on the days. A lot of the races have been around like that 16 to 25 kilometer hour winds, and it's the morning, so it's a little bit calmer even usually. So it wasn't choppy at all the year that I did, minus everybody else swimming around me. Got hit in the face a couple times that swim, but that's par for the course. But no, the water is actually pretty calm there. It's not a huge lake. Um, in comparison to lakes, I guess over here, maybe over in Europe, it's probably one on the larger side, but yeah, it's not too bad.
Okay, cool. And anything else on the swim side? Do they have wetsuit peelers in Canada?
I have not been to a race with a wetsuit peeler yet, so it would be great if we did. But yeah, not at this race that I saw. And this is one of the smaller 70.3s. I believe this is, sorry, um, I believe this is one of the ones where they take the naming rights. So it was like a local race, and they've just taken the Ironman
Oh yeah.
brand. So it's not even like fully run by Ironman that way.
Okay. Still, it looks like a good start anyhow. Okay. Any
Yeah.
other tips on the swim? Because yeah, otherwise you've got 1 hour and 10 minutes from your start time to get out to the swim exit. Anything other last minute tips?
There's not much of a current in the river. It doesn't really help or hurt, and that was about it.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll move on to our transition then. We have it's a single transition, and it is also a traditional transition with no Ironman bags. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Um, what is the transition is in the park or and what's the this general setup?
Yeah. So it's in front of that. If you want to go back a slide, even.
Ooh. Yep.
Um, so the transition, you can see where you come out of the swim exit. The transition is pretty much right where it's like Park Drive, kind of in that area. So it's just out front of this Canada Summit Center in the parking lot there. And like I said, I think it's like a 200 meter, according to my Garmin, um, run, which was on a carpet on the road. So it wasn't too bad for the feet. Not the worst transition length, but not the best either.
Okay, cool. And numbered racks, etc.
Lots of racks, and then the in and out are nicely placed. The in is just coming like the closest point to the canal, and then the out is pretty much like right in the middle of the transition area. So you're not in a deficit pretty much wherever you get racked, and everybody's racked according to their age groups. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Excellent. All right. As you're racking again, tips in terms of transition from myself, as you're racking your bike the day before, which is part of the timetable we'll talk of, and make sure you kind of walk your ins and outs, as I said. So walk to where your and walk from transition to where your swim entry is, so you know what that distance is. Get a lie for, but you'll see the boys lay out as well. You can get that feeling. and then walk from, and then go to the swim exit, walk from where you will be to where you will rack your bike in your set number, and then where you go through the whole process of where you will run with your bike to the mount line. That's the line you have to go across until you can, with the bike in its entirety, both wheels, before you can hop on the bike. And then also just imagine yourself coming back on the end of that 90, epic 90K cycle to the dismount line. We have to get off the bike, have it to a full stop, get off the bike before you have to run to your rack, um, put your bike on, and then you can take your helmet off. Um, any tips for yourself, Bryce, in terms of when you're setting up your transition for this type of race? What would you be thinking and planning?
So usually it's this race specifically on transition. The transition area is at the very bottom of a hill. So when you get your bike, you get out of the transition area and you get to the mountain line. The mountain line is at a decently sized, like a decent incline there. So make sure to have your bike in the lowest gear possible to make it easy getting out of there. And then sometimes, because you do have to leave the bike overnight, and it is pretty hot in July during the day, you might want to decrease your PSI down. I race at about 70 PSI with my tubeless. I recommend going down to about 50 PSI. That's what I've always been told. So it might be a good thing to do there, and then make sure you pump it up beforehand. But yeah, and then the other piece is just when you're sort of, you know, make sure to have a little spot to put your wetsuit when you're sort of coming in, and you just know where you want to throw that so it's not in your way or anybody else's way as you're getting in.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other, again, there's some other tips that we have in the comments below about how to set up your transition. Again, make it nice and compact because it's a traditional transition. You put everything beside your bike, etc. It can get, there's lots of bits and pieces. So make sure you make it compact because everyone, it works better for everyone. Some hints and tips and shorts below. And also because there's no wetsuit peelers slash strippers in Canada, you got to work out how to get your wetsuit off in a hurry. And that's a video on that too. Okie doke. All right. So hope we're enjoying the video. And if you are, please give a thumbs up to say thank you to Bryce. The If you also want to see other great video content on other races, as I said, we covered Mont Tremblant. I've got Ironman Ottawa coming down the line, and there's some other local races myself and Bryce are going to do reviews on. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out. Okay. Now we are out of our. We're out. We've passed the mountain line. We had our helmet on before we touched the bike. We ran out. We've gone past our mountain line. We're on the bike and we're heading off on the bike course. What can we expect on the day, Bryce?
Yeah, so it's a nice out and back bike course. The roads, from what I remember and have seen, they're not necessarily the best. Like they're not freshly paved for the most part. There's some sections where it's a bit grooved from the cars, so you need to watch out for that. But it's not like you're seeing potholes everywhere. It's just more or less make sure you're keeping an eye on the road and looking where you want to be riding. There's aid stations, I think, at 24, 46, and 66. So that's always good to keep in mind. Um, the course, obviously, you can see the elevation there. It's not flat, but it's not necessarily massive climbs. I believe it's just under 1,000 meters of elevation across the entire thing. But outside of that one big climb at the beginning, it's a lot more rollers. And so, you don't necessarily want to go super hard out of this. You want to kind of ease into it. I try not to go 20 watts over too much on the uphills, maybe a little more on that first one, but in the rollers just sort of try to keep it more smooth because that'll help you in the long run. I believe that first climb there is about 100 meters. And so in elevation, so it is a big one with a little bit of a dips going up, but it's not the worst of hill. I didn't actually think I saw anybody walking it, so that's always a positive sign for everybody. And then going down is nice. And then, like I said, once you get into the rollers, try to keep it as smooth as possible to your target power that you want to get to. A lot of the times, the momentum from the downhills were keeping me up most of the way through the top. I know when I was doing it, I was just kind of trading spots with a guy. I raced at about like 250 pounds, 113 kilos. So I'm on the heavier side, so those uphills are a little harder for me, but still pretty good. Yeah, so I would say like make sure you're keeping your energy good for that first 12K, and then you can kind of push it a little more in the back half because obviously you get that giant hill. I know I was looking at my top speed coming down that thing, and I hit 79. And I think that was with my calf cramping a little bit because I did go out a little bit too hard in that first 12K, and so I wasn't pushing the power too much going downhill. But it's a lot of fun, and it's like I said, downhill straight into transition, so you get a little bit of a break before you have to get your run legs on there.
Cool. Okay. Couple extra questions. Closed roads or not?
Um, Parts of it are, parts of it are not. There were some cars on the road. I'd say majority of it is not closed road.
Okay, but well marshaled, as in for those
Yeah.
junctions, etc. Okay. And the classic question, which we'll always get, part one, road bike or TT bike? And the second part of that, if you have a TT bike and you've got a disc wheel, would you chuck it on? What do we think?
I always say yes to both. I haven't raced a race where I wouldn't do it yet, but I also, once again, I mentioned I'm like 113 kilos on race day usually, so I would probably avoid the ones like Alpe d'Huez triathlon because that would be really hard for me. But no, I
We'll
would
bring you
I
over for
would
Lanzarote, as in like you won't be doing a disc wheel on that.
fair. Yeah, so I would definitely do try. I did my TT bike on this one. I didn't have a disc wheel at that point, but I definitely would now that I do have one.
Okay, cool. All right. Any other last minute tips then on the bike course?
Nope.
Okie doke. Okay, right. Again, there's a flashback for the aid stations 24, 46, 66, 66. We'll talk a little bit about bike aid stations shortly. In terms of your cutoff times, you've got your swim, your T1, and your bike time. You have got 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 hours and 30 minutes to get from get in back into T2. But it's very doable. Okay, so a little bit about aid stations. And by the way, it's it's not actually mortal hydration on this. It looks like it's Gatorade based on the latest athlete guide I had a look at.
Yep.
I want to one thing I'm very very keen on. There's two things you need to take up from it, this picture, right? By the way, it's not that small. It's around 300, 400 meters wide. So there's lots of tables, lots of volunteers. But the most important thing you'll see is bottle toss here and what you call it, last chance trash here. This means that you can only throw litter, rubbish, or trash, or however you call it yourself, in these areas. And if you don't, two things will happen. One, you get disqualified. Two, you'll be known as a dick in the triathlon community. We're very, very keen on making respecting the local environment, and because if we do maintain by these rules and we just chuck all our gel wrappers, empty bottles, banana skin peels, don't think they're biodegradable and get away with it. That if you put them in this area, Ironman can come the day after and clean it up and as if we were never there. That's why we get invited back to racing these places. If we start chucking litter everywhere else, we just destroy the environment, and that's not what we want. We are guests. We respect the location, and you get DQ'd. So, other things that you need to know about a standard Ironman aid station. They are high risk and high reward. What do I mean by that? As I said, the risks comes from it's the only place you can chuck litter, so therefore there's bottles and there's wrappers. It's a place where people are suddenly veering in to actually pick up a bottle. It's a place where there's volunteers standing out on the handing out bottles, etc. And there's lots of moving parts. So if you're not paying attention and you try to go in too fast, you will end up causing a crash and ruining yourself and others' days. So key things. One, communicate. Talk to people. I'm going into an aid station, going into an aid station. Talk to a volunteer when you're slow down. I'm looking for a bottle of water. I'm looking for a bottle of Gatorade. They'll do their best to get it into your hand. Then secure it and then slowly come out again, communicating. I'm coming out, I'm coming out. Do these things, do them in a slow, controlled fashion, or else you'll ruin your day. And that means you get the reward of enough fuel, enough hydration to make sure you get a really good race day. But they'll end up, there'll be a water bottle, and this will be in a 750 ml bottle that fits in a standard water cage. It is, as I ignore mortal hydration, wrong picture. But it's Gatorade, food. Don't think you're going to get more than a banana, but it is food. I think it's mortal hydration in terms of the actual the gels. I need to check that again. And we have a little slide there later on, so we'll come back and that. And again, if you miss the bottle the first time, it repeats. So don't worry, you will get a chance for another bottle of electrolytes and water. Anything you want to add to that, Bryce?
I will say on in terms of like bike support, there is a bike mechanic on course as well that's helpful. I actually double flatted on this one.
Ooh.
My one tire flatted right at the base of a hill, and then my spare was defective. And then also my mechanic at the time, he like cranked my um, through axle on there, so I couldn't even get it off with my tools. So I had to wait for the mechanic, but it was like a 10-minute wait near the beginning of the race, and but the mechanic was got there pretty quickly uh, and like super quick once he got there in terms of getting a new tube and tire and everything on for me. So, anyways, I'm very grateful for that. And your day is not done if you do have a mechanical out there. Just make sure to wave someone down and get the help you need.
Yeah. But it's also a really good point as well. A lot of people you see in these forums, what happens if I get a puncture? Be self-sufficient. Be have practiced
Yes.
actually changing the puncture, and that's on your race setup as well. So if you'd practiced like the day before or a couple of days, you would have found that the true axle was too tight, and you go, okay, right. If I need to get that off in a race, I'm in a bit of trouble. So whilst there are motorized support, please don't be reliant on them. Be self-sufficient
Yeah.
because as Rice was lucky, he got there in 10 minutes, but they they're covering a 45 mile kind of loop as well. So you could be waiting for half an hour. And if you're tight to cut off, that could be game over. Whereas if you can like you're not waiting half an hour and you can fix it yourself in 10, 15 minutes, you're still game ball. So good to know, but again, always practice that as well. Good call out though, Bryce. All righty. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about again, aid stations are key and you need to know how to use them. There's a little video below in terms of that shows demonstrations of it and little hints and tips, and there's an acronym that shows that I used to be a management consultant because you always have to have an acronym. So check that out in the comments below. And we're back to transition two. So do you want to talk us through same location? Anything specific that we want to call out about transition for the guys and girls?
Make sure you are on your brakes coming down, because just like how you have an uphill to start right after you get on your mount your bike, it's going straight from a downhill to the brake line. So you don't want to come in there too hot, go past the line and get a penalty. So it's just keeping on there and knowing when you need to get off, and obviously watching for everybody else getting off too. You don't want to cause an accident or get involved in one in any way, shape, or form. But in the transition area, once you get in there, it's pretty good. I like to have any gels or anything like that I have to bring on the run, either with an elastic band around them, with maybe my glasses and my hat in there, and just sort of rip it off and then throw it in my little pouch in my back, or however I want to carry them, and get my goggles or sorry, my glasses and hat and bib on. So that's a good way to be kind of quick if you're just trying to get in and out. But otherwise, make sure you have everything you need from there. You don't want to lose any nutrition, because I've also been there where I'm definitely on a deficit on the run, and I wish I brought more with me. So bring what you need, maybe a little extra.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, there's also no bike catchers. This is an American luxury that you have to rack your own bike, but that's also part of your recce the night before you walk. Again, that's where you've gone. Okay, so when I'm coming in from as you rightly pointed out, your dismount line, that I have to stop, even if I'm coming in hot, fully stop and get off that bike and then run to. And again, you'll have loaded your location ideally by in big, large, inanimate object. Don't say because you're right beside the guy at the green bike, because the guy at the green bike might be there. You're sort of going for like a porta potty, or I'm beside that tree, or I'm beside right in line with that building. Yada yada. Rack the bike, and then only then can you take your helmet off. But otherwise you pick up a penalty. And we have a saying in the squad: get in, get out, and NGHIT2. Nothing good happens in T2. Do not sit around. Do not think about it. Do not talk to people. The other phrase my guy wants me to get a t-shirt on. The only thing in transition two are other people's problems. Someone's going to be there going, oh, I got a penalty, or oh, I dropped my bottle, and you're sort of going, I can't be dealing with this. I need to start running. So we have exactly as you said, if you've got your gels in your hat or in all the rest of them, the minute you got your runners on, start moving, because then you can put your hat on when you're running. You can put your belt on when you're running, race belt. You can get a gel on board. And then before you know it, you've covered 300, 400 yards, and that's off your run time, run distance. So you're moving, you're improving.
Hmm.
couple other tips and hints in the shorts below on how to get in and out fast. Any other transition two tips for yourself, Bryce?
Nothing on my end.
Cool. Alrighty. Now we're on the run course. This is a lumpy one as well, isn't it? From what
It's a
I can
little
see.
lumpy. It's not too bad. So this is the what part that differs from when I ran it. When I ran it, the run course sort of went along the path of the bike course for a period of time. So, anyways, this one's a little bit different, but from the elevation, I was looking at it and talking to a few people who have run it since. It sounds like it's essentially a net uphill on the way out and then a net downhill on the way back. So, similar to the bike course advice, don't go out too hot. It's going to be hard, conserve yourself, especially for that last 10K. The part that's really nice is that it's just a straight out and back one loop. So, as soon as you get to that turnaround point, you just have to get home and then you're good for your day. But there is a decent climb. I think it was around the 6 to 8 kilometer mark. And then once you get past that climb, it's pretty flat again. It kind of plateaus to get around the turnaround, and then, like I said, you're looking at a net downhill with like that small little climb to get back to where that big climb on the way in was. So pace yourself on the way back, and then really once you get to that last downhill, then that's the time to really push it if you want to push it. Conserve until you get to that point. Make sure you're taking all your nutrition in the first half of it, so that way you're well prepped for the back half, and then you're good to go. I think from an aid station perspective, it's every 2K, which is nice. So lots of opportunities in case you did forget anything, to get what you need in. So that's great.
They have Pepsi. They don't do Coke in Canada. You guys are so anti-American.
Pepsi is still owned by America, an
That's
American
true, that's true,
company.
that's true. That's my point. And also, by the way, I was right. They don't do Morton gels. They do Spark gels. I've never used Spark gels. Have you used Spark gels?
I've never heard of Spark Gels, and maybe the reason they use Pepsi is because Gatorade is owned by Pepsi.
Oh, would be. But again, Gatorade is still on course. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Yeah, so every 2K. And again, for me, advice is never miss an aid station, even if it's just a case of depending on how warm it might be, you might use it for temperature management, pouring water down your back or whatever. Or if you're getting on board some fuel, some salty snacks as well. You will have fueled a lot for the run on the bike, but now you're keeping things topped up. And for me, I saved the Pepsi for like I would save the Pepsi. I'd only be taking the Pepsi around 10K onwards
Mhm.
because once you kind of look for that sugar rush, you want other and you will be needing to keep it topped up. So it's better to kind of keep it for the to get your run legs bouncing at the very last end. Anything else on the run course, Bryce?
Race cutoff is 8 hours, I believe, but
It's
the
actually eight and a
course
half, according
eight and a
to
half.
the athlete guide. Actually, what's the road surface like? Is it all tarmac, concrete, asphalt? What you guys call it?
I believe it's all road. I could be wrong. I didn't hear anybody talk about that specifically, but looking at it's all streets that are on there: Ferguson Road, Golf, Gun Club Road. So I know when I did it as well, it was all roads, and there's a bunch of houses lining. So there's a bunch of people that be out there, some 5-year-old girls happy to spray everybody with their hose. So there's lots of that, especially on a hot day. Like I said, it's 25 plus humidity, so it's
Nice.
usually like 30 degrees or over by the time you get on the run. So take advantage of it. That's my advice.
Absolutely. And it's good to see the crowd. The crowds are coming out to support.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of the crowd coming out to support, this is your finish line. As I said, it does look very idyllic. Lots of people there waiting to cheer you in.
Yep.
What was your finish line experience post-COVID? Was it good? Were the people out or?
It was pretty good. So, like I said, it was August 21, so people were starting to come out a little bit more. It was a fairly big race because that was the first year we'd really had it in a little while. So, it was a lot of friends that I knew that were coming up as well. But the crowds were big. The finish line, it felt real big, and like I said, it was like, so it's in a little bit of a valley. So you just come down the hill, and it's nice. Like you're just kind of easing in. I was cramping up pretty hard in my like forearm and my leg, so I'm just like hobbling in, and then you get to the red carpet and just say, "Oh, everything feels great," and got to look good for the photos. So
Lazarus, I am cured.
yeah.
Brilliant. I gotta call this out. Honey Stinger, by the way, love that as a if they did that peanut butter bar, absolutely
Mm,
genius. I trained for my first Ironman on that, and also I love the
fair.
aftershocks as well. I approve of their sponsors.
Oh, the
Um,
aftershocks. That's what got me through open water swimming when I first started because I was just so scared of the water. It's like, oh, just listen to music and we're good to go.
so you were listening to like the soundtrack from Jaws and stuff, were you?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, no, I don't know. I actually never wear them in the water, as in I wear them running because I like you can hear a little bit around. But
Mm.
I tend to just have well, no, I have lots of people singing in my head with all the different voices. But that's what keeps me entertained during the swim. Alrighty, we will move on to the kind of key dates and times you need to keep in mind. Registration will open on Friday at 2 p.m. It's all day available from 10:30 to 5 p.m. on a Saturday. I am very obsessive compulsive. I can't understand how anyone could would register on a Saturday when they could do it on a Friday, as in like the fear of something going wrong. And someone registering at 7 o'clock or like 5 to 7, sorry, not 7 o'clock, 5 to 5. My heart even starts getting palpitations thinking about that. It looks like the athlete briefing is online. There was no sort of scheduled athlete briefing, so I think it might be one of those where they posted up, but keep an eye out for that. And do read the athlete guide is up for 2025. If you're watching that, then if you're watching for future years, it may not, but always read that and make sure you do watch the athlete briefing. These videos are meant to complement that. We'll give you a little bit more from an athlete's point of view, a coach's point of view. They'll give it from a race director or a point of view where they're trying to keep everyone nice and safe and come back for repeat business. Um, the key thing as well, drop off your bike and timing chip pickup as well between 11 and 5 on the Saturday. That's when you do your walkthrough, people. Now make sure you can actually just make sure you check it out. Oh, question, Bryce, could you do a practice swim the day before?
Yep. I
Okay.
like I would probably do it out where the swim start is.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, there's a bunch of boats in the water there, so you do need to be cognizant of that. But where the swim start is, if you're staying by the shore, there should be some space to do some open water swim. They don't have kind of like how I was saying for Tremblant, like they have some open times for you to go there. They don't do that for this. I
Okay.
think there might be even the triathlon club up there might run some like pre-race
Clinics. Okay.
things like the week before or something like that.
Okay, cool. Again, keep an eye out on the Facebook group. All right, race morning will transition will open at 5. Again, my obsessive compulsive will get me there probably around half 5 because I know if something goes wrong and I've got an hour to fix it, it's not a big deal. If I turn up and I've got 10 minutes to fix it, I am wetting the bed. So again, take advantage, and you also want to just make sure that you're set up. And if you're set up early and you're chatting and you're kind of absorbing the atmosphere of a pre-Ironman race, brilliant. As opposed to running down and trying to set up in a hurry and knocking other people's bikes over. Your great day out will start at 7 a.m. And again, follow all Bryce's top advice and you'll have a bloody good day out. Okay. Well, again, if you have any questions or have to make sure to post them in the comments below, as in myself and Bryce do keep an eye on it, as I said. And before we wrap it up there, I do want to very much thank Bryce for giving up his time, his energy, and his wisdom for helping people kind of hopefully have as good a race day experience as he did. And so any last words for a nervous newbie, Bryce?
Yeah, just go out and enjoy it. Just as long as you're having a good time, that's really all that really matters in the sport. Enjoy the nice weather, enjoy the bad weather. I enjoyed that thunderstorm. It wasn't as hot during the rain.
Then it's also an excuse to buy a carbon bike because you don't want to be out there in an aluminium bike because that apparently attracts, and that's how you have to sell to the wife or the partner as in, yeah, no,
It's
I'm just
true.
doing this for lightning protection purposes.
I hadn't thought of that. I'll make sure to let the wife know next time she's complaining
Upstairs for
about my
thinking,
spending.
downstairs for coaching. Um, okay, listen again, Bryce. Thanks, brilliant. Really enjoyed chatting to you as usual. We'll get another bit of Canadian, was it race in the diary soon, but we'll call it there. Thanks, pal.
Thank you.